Welcome to the HawgBeat Half Hour presented by Bet Saracen. We have a great show in store for you today, yet again, this time with a special guest, Jamie Shaw. He is the national recruiting analyst over at Rivals. He joins us to talk Arkansas recruiting, Rivals rankings, and more. Jamie, how are you doing this morning?
Jackson, man, I'm great. It's beautiful here. I'm in the Carolinas. We just had another kickoff in the weather, so it's got hot again. We had a 70s and 80s last week. Now all of a sudden it's back up in the 90s. So hopefully we're getting toward the football weather here soon.
Love it. Love it. Before we get into all the great stuff that Jamie has for us, I need to tell you about some other great stuff. Roback's Game Day Apparel. There's only one way to describe Roback. It's the best fit, the best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they're completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, from everyday shorts or their Delta performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. Use the code HAW20 that's on your screen right now, HAW20, on HawgBeat.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com, and that's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code HAW20, HAW20. Now that we got that out of the way, we can jump into the good old juicy stuff with Arkansas and recruiting and all that sort of stuff. Jamie, you've been around basketball for a very, very long time. You've covered countless players, tons of coaches. We're just now entering year 2 of the Calipari era at Arkansas. What insight can you give to Hog fans about his recruiting at this stage of his career, with your experience in covering him?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that Calipari has is he I don't want to say he brings fear, but people recognize when he's in the room. He's somebody that if he's involved in a recruitment, coaches are paying attention to. In this day of NIL, this new age type of recruiting, I'm not entirely sure there's a singular coach out there that is feared or anything like that. But there's a certain lineage of coaches that they've had where their track record makes you pay attention. John Calipari is one of those guys. I mean, in his first full cycle of recruiting at Arkansas, I mean, he brought in 2 5-stars, 2 McDonald's All-Americans. He brought in a really high upside big with Paolo Samita, and then he also brought in the best player at Arkansas, Isaiah Sealy, as well, with a high upside also. So 2 5-stars, 2 upside guys. That's a really good class for your first full cycle as the head coach. So even at this point in his career, wherever he's at along his line of his career, he's somebody that everybody pays attention to.
Absolutely. And, it's one of those things where now on the recruiting trail, and you've seen it too in person. You were at Peach Jam. You've been at all these different events on the Adidas circuit, on the Nike circuit, all over the place. Cal was there, front and center. He had the prospects that he was watching, and we see all the names. Also, just a little plug for Jamie. If you follow him on X, he has so many articles coming out and constantly about top recruits, where they're trending, and all that sort of stuff. Right now, we can talk to him about where some of these players are and as they trend with Arkansas, away from Arkansas. What are some of the names you're looking at right now in terms of Arkansas's priority list?
Well, obviously, you got to start with the guys that they're getting on campus. Guys like Erfan Diane, Jordan Smith, Cole Clower, Tay Kenny, guys they have established recruiting with. When it comes to, I guess, intel or whatever on those type of guys, I wouldn't say they necessarily lead for anybody. But people within the know are saying to watch Arkansas with a couple of them, namely Jordan Smith and Tay Kenny. Not necessarily that going into the visits, there's a long ways to go before November signing period. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily leading, as I said, but pay attention to just kind of how things go and how things move within the process of what happens with those guys.
Now, and some other names that keep getting floated around as Arkansas being connected to, but might not be at the front of the list, so to speak, are names like Tyron Stokes or Brandon McCoy or Abdu Torre. What are your thoughts on some of those guys as they pertain to Arkansas?
And those are the other three names that I had written down to mention next in this thing. So the previous ones were the ones they have set stuff with. Those are three guys that I would watch. Obviously, it's very difficult to get a player if you don't get them on campus, if you don't set the official visit with them. Those are all three guys that Arkansas had traction with earlier in the process, but we haven't seen official visit lists, official visits set necessarily yet. So those are guys worth paying attention to as to how things get nailed down. Once official visits are set, then all of a sudden it's time to start kind of locking in with where things stand and how the visits go. And, obviously making sure they get on campus. You can set an official visit. Stepping foot on campus is also a step in the process as well. But those are the other three names that I actually had written down to kind of pay attention to and see kind of where things progress over these next few weeks.
Now, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Arkansas already has one commit in J.J. Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
If you had, and we'll get to him later. Dan will touch on him a little bit later. If you had to pick one recruit that is uncommitted that you felt like Arkansas had the best shot of landing right this second, doesn't have to be a full official prediction or anything, but who do you think Arkansas has the best shot at landing as of today?
Well, and that's kind of difficult to answer as well, because right now, as I said, I don't think they lead for any of those guys that are uncommitted. However, they are in the ball game for guys like the Tay Kenny's, Jordan Smith, and it's to be determined whether they get Braden McCoy, Tyron Stokes, Abdou Toure on campus. So to sit there and pinpoint one guy that I think they're definitely going to put in the class, I don't know that necessarily there's one to put your name on. However, they have a class of about 3 or 4 guys that are definitely worth monitoring at this point. As kind of the process goes, as you well know, there are no bad official visits. You get on official visits, and it's the whining, the dining, the red carpet. You get the whole thing. So, getting somebody on campus, anything can happen throughout an official visit. It's fluid, and tides can turn very quickly, especially in this day, this new recruiting age that we're in. Getting a kid to step foot on campus is the first step, and anything can happen once that kind of takes place.
Yeah, Jamie. I mean, obviously they've got one commit already in J.J. Andrews. They've got a bunch of guys that they're kind of in on. Is there a specific target number of high school guys that you've kind of heard float around that they're looking at as far as how many they're going to take in this class?
Well, I think as you've seen from Calipari, 2 things that you've seen with him. The first one being he's not afraid to take high school kids and play high school kids. And secondly, he's not afraid to get a little bit creative with how he does. As you saw in the first class, he took 3, brought them all over for Kentucky. The second class, I believe he had 3 as well. And then Paolo Semedo came late, so making 4 total. Semedo was a creative guy. He was in the 2026 class originally. They brought him in. Now he's, on campus now as part of the 2025 class. So he's not afraid to take a high school kid. He's not afraid to get creative with it. With that being said, with the influx of Euros, foreign people coming in now as well into the mix, you kind of never know. I know that they have had assistant coaches that are over in the FIBA games overseas that have also connections and ties to agents and all that type of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of Euro players or a couple of overseas players get to the mix kind of later in the process as well. There's always reclassification from 2027 to 2026 also. So creativity when it comes to that, to filling out a class. To kind of answer your question, but no, I haven't seen a target. They've had 3 or 4 in the past couple classes. I think it's safe to say between 2 and 4 would be an eager target, but I also don't think in this day and age of, again, the overseas recruitment, as well as the transfer portal, they're necessarily hell-bent on a select number within the high school class. I think that they have guys that they like, that they take, that they can, they know that they'll get something out of. And I don't think they're gonna stretch it past that. The evaluation process has been gone through, and in this age of the transfer portal and all that, I don't think they're going to take somebody that they don't necessarily want or isn't a top priority for them to come in and contribute.
Yeah, for sure. You're talking about Paolo Semedo. We don't know a whole lot about him. He's from the international ranks. I mean, it looks like, I believe he's a top 50 player now, right? Do I have that correct?
Yeah, he's in that range.
Yeah. So, I mean,
there's just been so many guys come in and out of the class. I don't remember exactly where he lays currently, but it's in between the 45, 60 range.
Yeah, somewhere in there. What have you seen out of his game? And I mean, as far as production on the floor this coming season, do you think he's someone that could be a factor for the Hogs?
So what he brings is long-term upside. He's super unique. He's a high-level mover, if that makes sense. He's his athleticism is very fluid. He's able to slide his feet. He's able to get low and sit. He's able to turn his hips and switch positions defensively and all that. He's got great timing. He's also got good touch. He can put the ball on the floor, push the break off of a couple dribbles, and he's got just high upside ceiling. Now he's got to put it together. He needs reps. He needs strength. So the canvas is made out of the finest material. Now all of a sudden you got to put the paint on it, and that's kind of where we're at with him. He's very unique, legit 7 foot, great length, and the fluid moving that he does gives him a huge upside. Then you have some of the ball skills and the touch and stuff that you see on the offensive end. He can knock down the three. He can push the break. Now he's got to consistently be able to figure out how he best affects a game, especially on the offensive end, and then put in the strength and the reps on the defensive end to learn the angles and the footwork of the game, and then be able to withstand, what it takes in the SEC to be able to play. But there's a massive upside there. There is a possibility of maybe getting something out of him this year because he's so unique in what he does, his ability to protect the rim, his ability to switch on the defensive end and play aggressively with that manner. However, I don't know necessarily that I would expect that given the amount of game reps that he needs, but also the strength that he needs to be able to put on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Paolo made a pretty good jump up into the 45, 60 range, like you were talking about. You've been around basketball a very long time. We're talking about Calipari's recruiting over the years and that sort of thing. Obviously, you're in charge of being the person that creates the Rivals 150. It's a pretty hotly debated topic on social media. Obviously, I mean it's one of those things where everyone thinks their player is too low. So and that's across all fan bases. That's not just Arkansas with their one recruit. But what goes into how do you develop that the entire list? I mean, there's thousands of high school players out in the country. How do you develop just 150 that you determine are the best?
Well, it's a process. Obviously, we start the cycle just after their sophomore year ends. So right now, we're about to put out our initial 2028 ranking in September. So September after their sophomore seasons is when we typically start the cycle, and it goes through all the way until after the All-Star games of their senior year. So typically throughout that cycle, throughout that process, there will be about 11 updates. So throughout those 11 updates, that's a process of accumulating names, but not only that, accumulating data points. So there's a ton of in-person evaluations, and that's an insanely valuable thing, is to be able to see the person, to see what they look like, see how they move, see their body language, to see how they produce and how all of that kind of comes in aesthetically in watching them live, but also a ton of tape. So you're watching a lot of video, a lot of game film of players, through various events. I like to get multiple settings of players. So you're seeing them in the high school level, seeing them in the camp setting, seeing them in an AAU setting, and how they kind of play, what roles they're able to take on. Are they always the alpha? Are they able to take on a secondary role? What do they look like when the talent's better? What do they look like when the talent's worse that they're playing against and with? So it's just tons of different settings and tons of different data points that you kind of bring in of being throughout the process of live in-person evaluations, along with kind of the film watch. And then you also have data and stats that you go on to as to, the players, all their stats and percentages and points per possession and shooting and usage and all that type of stuff. So the advanced stats and metrics play a role, the live in-person stuff, all that. Then also the progression that they make, the translatability of what their skill sets are toward the next level as you scale from college, high school to college to pros and all that. So just kind of an overall, there's not a specific formula, as every player is different. Just as you see, when you look at the NBA, there's not one specific guideline for an exactitude of a player that has success. There's all different types of players. So everybody's individually different, but you have to go through the entirety of it throughout the whole process and kind of just feel where things are at and get as many possible viewings as you can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously one of those players has been hotly talked about on the Trough, our message board, but that's Arkansas's lone 26 commit, JJ Andrews. I believe he was in the 40s before the most recent update, jumped about 18 spots. I think he's at 24 right now, if I've got that correctly. What I mean, what did you see from him? It sounds like it was Peach Jam mostly that kind of attributed to that rise. Obviously, he pulled in MVP honors there, but what did you see out of his rise, and maybe why wasn't he pushed up even further?
So with JJ, it's just hard to ignore the production. Every time he steps on the floor, the ball's in his hands, and he's putting up some counting stats. You see the physical presence. I think he was measured at 6'4.5" with a 7-foot wingspan at USA Basketball. So you see the physical presence that he has, the strength, and that length is impressive. He puts the ball in his hands. He plays with a lot of confidence, and he continues to produce kind of numbers across the board. When we go through the process of kind of evaluating players and looking kind of to the scalability of what they are, there's some very specific things that we look at within the process. The processing decision-making that the players have with the ball in their hands, the positional size and athleticism they have, the length and stuff, how that scales, motor, toughness, physicality. You have the shooting aspect of it. And then also their ability to kind of create advantages with the ball in their hands, in their area. So kind of looking through those areas of what it is, looking at what JJ does, the physicality, the strength aspect is there. The motor and physicality is there. When it comes to the shooting, when it comes to the processing with the ball in his hand, it can be kind of spotty, hit or miss. And with that type of usage that he has, for example, throughout Peach Jam, let me look here to get these numbers right. 18 points, 5.9 rebounds, 2.1 steals. Unbelievable counting stats that he had. Throughout the process, he shot 45% from the field. He was 0 of 6 from 3, and he had a 1.7 assist to turnover ratio with, I think, just under maybe 1.9 assists per game. So looking through that, you see somebody who's comfortable with the ball in his hands, who's comfortable getting downhill to kind of create possessions for his team. However, once he's getting downhill, if he's not taking the shot, the shooting aspect, then you have the processing aspect as well, decision-making toward advantages for the team. So with JJ, circling back around, the production's hard to ignore, and that's what gave him the rise. Back-to-back Peach Jam champions, best player on the floor as the MVP, and the production was there consistently throughout, no matter who he played against. He was consistently putting pressure on the defensive team, consistently putting pressure on playing defense on the opposing team as well. The questions come when you look moving forward, especially toward the highest level. What does that look like? When you go toward the NBA, what does his 0 for 6 shooting from 3 look like as he gets to the NBA at 6'4.5"? What does the processing with the usage that he has, the ball in his hands so much, still being a little turnover prone with minimal assists, with less than 2 assists, a less than 2-to-1 assist to turnover. What does that look like when he's in the paint, collapses the defense, and guys are as strong as him and guys are as athletic as him? How does he continue to produce there? And that's not something that's set in stone. That's just questions that we have that still moving forward, still looking at. So the production that he's had at the highest level against people and winning back-to-back Peach Jams goes for itself. That put him a mark up into the top 25 as to where he's at now. Now the questions become as to checking off the boxes when it comes to kind of the projectability moving toward the highest level. At Rivals, I was going to say on three Rivals, when we do the rankings, we look toward the NBA. We want draft night to be our number 1 guy goes number 1, our number 2 guy goes number 2. So the North Star, the end of it being the NBA draft. We look at, once you get into that top 25, top 30 range, how do these guys best project toward the highest level? Now, there's an entire year to go. There's questions to still be answered. There's growth to still be had. And then also after that, there's college and what they produce there. So now we're looking for data points and markers to project moving forward. And with JJ, his production has overcome the questions to this point so far, getting him into the top 25. Now, as the top 25 player in the entire country, of the thousands upon thousands of players to play high school basketball in the 2026 class, now it's kind of the fine-tooth comb as to projectability moving forward and how things scale.
Gotcha. And you mentioned there's about a set number of updates, before they actually get on campus. How many do you guys have left, until the 26th class will get here?
Yeah, so we'll have one before signing day in November. We'll probably have a mid-season one, maybe sometime December, January timeframe. We'll probably have, and we'll definitely have a final one after the All-Star game. So there's between 3 and 4 still left to go in the 26th class.
Gotcha. And how many 5-stars in total in the class do you guys does Rivals have?
Currently, we have 2: Tyron Stokes and Brandon McCoy.
Yeah, but I guess when it's all said and done, will there be more 5-stars, less 5-stars? I mean,
so 5 stars for Rivals is kind of projecting lottery pick. So can this person be a lottery pick? Again, what we want to do: number 1, go number 1; number 2, number 2. There's 14 lottery picks within the NBA draft. So essentially, we're 14 5-stars is the top end that we're going to have. And essentially, what's that saying is we think this person could end up being a lottery pick in the NBA draft. So yes, every cycle we've had more than 2 at this point in time. I'm not necessarily comfortable putting more than 2 on there. Probably there will be more than 2 as the things progress. But 14 is the max number. And what a 5-star says in the Rivals is we think this person could be a lottery pick.
One thing I wanted to touch on a little bit, Jamie. So obviously we've talked a lot about Arkansas's recruiting moving forward. You mentioned earlier Arkansas has 2 5-star freshmen on this current roster, Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. You've watched them a lot. You've graded them out a lot. What are kind of your expectations for their production in their freshman seasons under John Calipari?
I expect them to find production. I feel like I'm going to be interested to see. The one thing I'll be interested to see is how he kind of toggles the minutes between those 2 and Wagner. Kind of what the staggering of minutes looks like between those 3. But I expect them to come in. I mean, they're 2 players who have the utmost confidence in themselves. They have the utmost confidence with the ball in their hands and their ability to be able to create shot opportunities for themselves and to score the basketball. I think there's going to be some percentage woes that happen. I think there's going to be some inefficiency woes that happen. But I think that the second they step on the floor, they're going to have a lot of confidence. I think Calipari is going to have confidence in them, or he wouldn't play them. But the interesting aspect is going to be kind of how he staggers those minutes between the guards. They're all 3 ball in hand guys. That'll be the interesting aspect. I think with those 2 specifically, with Malik and Darius, they're high confidence guys. They're guys who are able to face anybody and have the confidence that they're going to come out on top. They're not afraid to get their shots up, and they're able to find opportunities, and they're able to do all that. So there will probably be some efficiency ups and downs. There will probably be some percentage ups and downs when it comes to the shot selection and figuring that out as it goes. But I expect them to have some solid counting stats, especially when it comes to points per game, provided they get the minutes.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jamie. That is Rival Senior National Recruiting Analyst Jamie Shaw joining the HawgBeat Half Hour. Jamie, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Daniel, Jackson, thank you all so much. Y'all are doing an unbelievable job. Super excited about having the HawgBeat on our network now and everything. And the fan base, I thoroughly appreciate. I think that college sports invokes feelings within people. Understanding that every fan base feels that way about their specific school. That's what makes college sports great. That's what makes Rivals and On3 the top of the list, is because they have a ton of fan bases that are just like what the Arkansas fan base is doing, fighting for their players and wanting the best. So I thoroughly appreciate it. Please continue to say, y'all too specifically continue to do a great job covering the beat.
Thank you so very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you.